One thing you know for sure, whenever we check in with Hubert Davis, it will be interesting.
Yes, it will be.
It'll be
Very
interesting.
Every time?
Yes.
Every single time.
Wow.
And that's all thanks to our good friends at CR Legal Team, CR Commitment, CR Results, CR Legal Team, a proud partner of Carolina Athletics. Coach Davis getting ready to head down to Charlotte. Coach, we've seen some movement in the post rotation here in the last week or two. As fans watch those players play and try to evaluate who's giving the Tar Heels what they need, what have you told each one of those guys that you need from them individually in order for them to earn more of those minutes that are available? What do each one of those guys need to do more of?
Well, for everybody on the team, not just specific to our bigger players, I give them the answers to the test. Defend, rebound, take care of the basketball, take good shots, share the ball. Every day bring energy, effort, enthusiasm, will and want to, and attention to detail in terms of your preparation and your play. And so those are the answers to the test. And so for all of our guys that have been successful, they check all those boxes. And you specifically talked about the bigs, and we're going to play them all. And the guys that are playing the best that particular day, that particular game, those are the group of guys or the guy that's going to get the bulk of the minutes. And that's how it's going to be for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that. I mean, I think you have a pretty firm grasp on your backcourt as far as guys who have earned the right to play and have given you different opportunities. So I guess you answered it kind of, but that can be something that you don't mind doing from game to game or week to week. Maybe player X gets more time in this game, player Y in a different game. It just kind of depends on what's happening, I guess.
It does, but that's not anything different than Coach Smith, Coach Guthridge, and Coach Williams. When I played, Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge was in charge of it. The first half was scripted out. And in the second half, as whoever was playing the best, those are the guys that got the bulk of the minutes in the second half. And so I'm not doing anything differently than Coach Smith, Coach Guthridge, and Coach Williams. The first half, obviously basketball happens, but we have a plan in the first half in terms of who gets in and how much time. But in the second half, it's obviously dictated on the opponent, the score, the time. Who's playing well, what rotations, what groups are playing well this particular game. Those are the guys that'll get the bulk of the minutes for the game and specifically in the second half.
Do you have somebody charting lineups, or is that a feel? I mean, obviously you're going to be able to tell this guy's playing well, this guy isn't.
Yeah.
But do you have somebody following the lineup combinations, or is that total feel by you and
in the
your staff?
In the second half, it's feel. The first half, we do have a script. I mean, obviously, people get in foul trouble, and then it goes into the trash. But we do have a script to look at in the first half, and we do that just to make sure we get the right combinations in to see what it looks like, and then in the second half we go from there.
You mentioned preparation as one of those things that you're evaluating what someone's contributing. How do you evaluate preparation? How can you tell when someone's prepared and doing the things you expect?
Well, when you call a play and they go out there and they don't run the play, they go in the opposite direction, or specifically, this is what we're doing on defense in regards to ball screens, and they do it or they don't do it. And that's a huge part. Like, I think our job is, yes, to prepare them to play well here, but I think it's also to prepare them because they all want to play at the next level. And it's really interesting, like, none of our guys have ever had a job, and I asked them that. A lot of times I say, your job and your responsibility, and they gave me a weird look when I kept saying that. So the next day I went back and I go, guys, have you ever, when I say job and responsibility, do you understand what I mean? And they go, I think, Coach. I said, have you guys had any jobs growing up? They said no. They said, did you have a job? I said, yeah. I had to deliver newspapers. I worked in a restaurant. I cut grass every week and had to edge. And I had a responsibility to show up every day, rain, snow, cold, windy, to not only show up, but to be the best that I could be, irregardless of how I was feeling. So Your job and responsibility is defend, talk on defense, set screens, sprint to offense, dive on loose balls, dominate points in the paint. Like, you have to bring that every day. And kids don't really have a concept of you have to bring that every day. Because they've never had a boss. They've never had to check in a card to say when they clocked in and when they left. They never have had that type of responsibility at all. And for a lot of these guys, their first job will be if they get to the NBA. I just couldn't imagine that being your first job. And it's really interesting how things have changed in that regards.
You have Florida coming up on Tuesday. It's another really good team, and it's another team that has a lot of length and size.
Yeah.
That has given Carolina some trouble in games this year against Auburn and Alabama, two other teams that have great length and size. Are there some ways to mitigate that advantage for Florida? What kind of things can Carolina do to try to flip that script a little bit, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, from an offensive standpoint, we've done a much better job of spacing and, making the extra pass. Against LaSalle, we had 22 assists. I can't remember what we had against Georgia Tech, but we're doing a much better job at moving the ball. Our spacing on offense is also really good. That allows us to punch gaps, attack the basket, get them into rotations, and then it just comes down to rebounding. I always say that it doesn't matter the size of them physically, the size of your heart, but the size of them physically is a factor. If I'm boxing out a 7-footer, there's a difference there. But collectively we've got to do it together. And maybe we don't have the size against some of the teams that we've played. That doesn't mean we can't execute. That doesn't mean we can't defend. And that doesn't mean we can't take care of the basketball and rebound. And that's what we have to do against Florida and UCLA and the remainder of the opponents that we play the remainder of the season.
Adam, Carolina had 10 assists in that game against Tech. A little bit of a deceptive
Not good
number.
enough.
There were only 23 made field goals, so it was percentage-wise okay, but I know not as high as you would like.
Yes.
When you tell a player to go right on a play and he goes left, I wonder also if this is something that kind of parenting taught you. Like, how much do you go back and think about, okay, this is how I told him. Do I need to tell him? Is there something about the way I'm telling him that's not getting through? Or is it just you need to do it my way?
Well, that's the first thing that I go to is, did I communicate it in a way where he didn't understand? And so I first look at me and go, did I tell him definitively and clearly this is what we need to do? And then is there a way, because everybody communicates differently, everybody takes things differently, and it's important to me. That's why I spend so much time with these guys off the court, is just to get to know their personality and understand how they learn, how they, take in information, how do they apply it. Like, for me, I'm a visual learner. Like, if somebody tells me something, I can remember it, but if I write it down or if I can see it, it's there for the rest of my life. And so being able to actually go out on the floor and walk through the play or be able to see it is huge for me. And so I just got to make sure that for each individual player, that whatever instructions I give to them, it's in a way that they can comprehend and be able to apply it out there on the floor. But sometimes they just go in the other direction.
Sometimes it can be as clear and definitive as you want.
18 years old.
Well, I do have one piece of bad news. We don't have checking in the next 2 weeks because of the holidays, December 23rd, December 30th. So we won't be checking in with Coach again until January 6th. So, Coach, we hope that these next couple weeks.
I'll hang in there.
Yeah, that you're okay. We'll have a lot to check in on when we see you again here in a couple weeks.
Can we just do a group text?
Yeah,
Each of
yeah,
those
we'll
Mondays?
just Monday morning.
Hey,
we'll
we're just checking in, Coach Davis.
Yeah, we'll digitally check in.
Yeah, FaceTime me.
But for now, we will check out of this edition of the show. We will be back, our next checking in a couple of weeks in early January. But this has been Checking In with Coach Davis, presented by CR Legal Team.